Hey there, guys. What is going on? Welcome back to the Voice of the Valleys with your host and friendly neighborhood far-right thug, Mr. George Cresswell. Hope we're all doing very well today. So, today, not sure how long this is going to be. Probably not going to be too long of an installment today. There's one thing which I wanted to go over a bit quick, which is a video that I went over whilst I was actually in Cornwall a couple of days ago, but I didn't have the settings set up correctly when I was recording in OBS, and the video that I tried to play for you guys was coming through with no volume. And in the episode that I recorded yesterday, which is eventually stuck after the third time of recording it, I might even go back and try and record it again. To be honest, it's not published yet, so I might see if I can go back and fix the errors that were within that episode as far as the audio capture are concerned. But this is just we're going to go over two clips and a little bit of supplementary information about some things which popped up on my X feed. Really, I'm not sure when this exact clip was. Give me 2 seconds. I'll find the date this was published for you now. So this clip, which we're going to be going over first, was on the 18th of March, which was 5 days ago at time of recording. Speaks a lot about the state of policing and the state of the UK as a whole. Actually, no, we're going to be going over another clip. We're going to be going over another clip as well. So make that three clips and a little bit of supplementary information for this episode. The first one is regarding the alarming presence of live facial recognition, facial ID vans, police vans that are cropping up over Britain, and the attitudes towards the public, or the attitudes towards people with questions from the police as well. So I'm going to play this clip for you now. I might stop it to talk about certain things that go on in the clip itself, but we'll go into the, if you can call it studio, we'll go into the studio now, and we will watch this clip right now.
Are you a robot, or do you have a mind of your own?
Programs.
Right here, we have a live facial recognition in operation. Get their faces. Live facial recognition. Constantly we are having surveillance pushed upon us without having any input. Do we want cameras to be watching our every move? Do we want our faces to be analysed? How do you feel about these facial recognition vans that you put up everywhere? Think it's beneficial?
So there's the first thing, right? So he says no comment. So this gentleman here is trying to draw attention to these facial recognition vans that have been popping up. I believe this is recorded in some city in England. I'm not sure why this is misbehaving at the moment. But these live facial recognition vans have been popping up, and it is very, very worrying. It is very, very worrying indeed. The increasingly totalitarian surveillance state that we live in. And the police officer here, when he's asked about it, just says no comment. And it does make you think a little bit about why is he choosing not to comment. Obviously, there's many ways which you can go about this, because we've seen that there's a good number of police in many police constabularies all up and down the country that are actively or active acolytes, should we say, of the leftist regime and ardent defenders of its dogma, and will not only toe the line, but relish in being able to clamp down on people's freedoms and this, mad power that they've been allowed to unleash on people. It's how you get police officers that do heinous things that we've all read about, the officers that feel as though they can do whatever they want with women, commit sexual attacks against women, for example. Even kids, obviously we've seen that. I believe there was a headline, it might have been out of Manchester or somewhere, that a bunch of police officers, I believe, got prosecuted. I'm not sure if they I believe they were convicted as well, if I'm not mistaken, of child sexual abuse. So not common to see that many of the people that are in these positions of dominion and positions of authority, positions of what should be or used to be protect and serve, are actively relishing in the ability to enact whatever will they want on the people in pursuit of the regime's agendas. But you do have some others that feel trapped within the system, who either don't know that what they're doing is wrong, or know what they're doing is wrong but don't see a way out of it, and they don't see a way out of it that's going to enable them to keep their family safe and all stuff like that. And so they go along with it despite the fact that they know it's wrong. They know they're not protecting and serving the people. They're protecting and serving government interests which are actively suppressing and oppressing the people. But they don't know what to do about it. They don't know, or they feel as though they can't do about it. They feel as powerless, and they feel trapped within this system. And as a result, there might be a no comment because they don't want to get themselves in trouble. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily justify what's going on. But you can take account that there are people that are ardent acolytes and ardent believers of the philosophy, the leftist dogma and the leftist philosophy that are coming out and being police officers. But you also have some that joined up at some point, and now things have changed and they don't know what to do about it. And they actually, might not necessarily be the same as those people. They might actually be seeing what's going on and not happy about it, know that it's wrong, know that a lot of the things that the police have done are evil, but not sure what to speak out about it via worrying about the consequences to themselves and potentially to their family. So you do have to take that both of those into account as well, in my opinion. But yeah, let's get on with more of the video now.
No mind of your own, do you? No. You can tell, it's very apparent that you lot are just complete robots that don't think for yourselves. And I thought that you became an officer to protect people. Instead, you're encroaching on the freedoms that you're supposed to uphold. You're supposed to uphold our freedom and our rights, not encroach on it in such a way. Think about all the injections that your government makes you take, all the adverse reactions that have been sustained because of the COVID vaccines. Think about what you've pushed upon the people you're supposed to serve and protect. Because I don't think that when you first became a police officer, that was your intention. And you're now working for a very sinister system instead of protecting the people that you're supposed to protect. You agree, right, sir?
Agreed, absolutely. Whether they're happy about it or not, they are certainly working on behalf of a sinister system. Absolutely. I can't say that for some reason. What the hell's going on? Teeth in. Sinister system. Absolutely. Whether this is an individual that is a ardent follower, a disciple of the religion of leftism, or if they are somebody that feels trapped within the system. But remember though that the guy said, I believe said that, what you're doing now is probably not what you envisioned that you were going to be doing when you first signed up to be a police officer. Again, making this appeal, what I'm going to call an appeal to humanity in a way, an appeal to the officer's humanity, being like, this isn't what you signed up for. What are you doing? There's no way that you were the type of character that signed up to this knowing exactly what you were going to do. Why are you doing this? And I feel that's going to be an important part of dismantling not the police itself, but reforming it and dismantling the ideology behind it. And it's kind of a central concept within Christianity as well, where loving someone enough to tell them the truth about what's going on, but because you want them to fix the things that are wrong, and you want them to have the courage to fight and win against their vices and these kinds of things, right? You do that through love. You don't do that through hate. You do that through love because you want the best for them. And obviously that applies to what we have in this world and in the next. But oftentimes if you denigrate, and I don't pull my punches when I see these things. I talk about the police as an institution, but on an individual basis like this, there's a case to be made that maybe we got to bring people's humanity back. And although they're caught up in this at the moment, and maybe we won't be able to, turn everybody, so to speak. We won't be able to get through to everybody. Some people might just be too far gone, but there are some that, for example, if this officer, is having reservations about what he's seeing, what policies are being pushed from the top down within police institutions, the corruption within the establishment that he may be seeing, and he might be starting to become disillusioned, almost like he's becoming disillusioned with a cult kind of thing, after he's starting to see the cult leader for who he really is, not who he professes to be. And oftentimes, or we might need to, show that we want things to improve because we care, and we also care about them, and we want to show them that we love them. Basically, they're human beings like us at the end of the day. So, this officer could just be somebody that's very well caught up in a bad position, knows what's going on is bad, but doesn't know what to do about it. And sometimes that can be handled better with a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer, so to speak. But yeah, he's absolutely caught up in this very, 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 very sinister agenda, this Maoist cultural revolution that's been going on in the UK.
Yeah. So do you have a mind of your own, or do you just work for a system and establishment that completely programs you? Robot. Okay, robot number 2. You're programmed.
Programmed.
Who have you been programmed by?
Oh, who knows? Who knows?
And I hope you guys actually go and catch criminals instead of encroach upon our private.
Now, he's saying that as a bit of a joke. Obviously, the police officer is saying this as a little bit of a joke, and it's quite clearly, obviously, not taking the remarks seriously. And that's quite concerning. The programming is absolutely real, and obviously that's true with regardless. You could call anything programming. You could call any type of education programming. You could call, for example, what personal trainers like myself try to do with clients. We literally call it programming, right? We write you a training program. It is programming you in a sense. And when we provide nutritional information, or we provide additional help to you from our academic background and from our experience to help you improve your training outcomes or whatever it might be, that's programming in a way. Everything is programming, but the programming that these officers have to undergo is serious and is no joke. They undergo this radical Marxist indoctrination that's led to this massive 2-tier policing system that we have. That it recently came out that sentences, I believe, were going to be more lenient in the UK if you were a female and if you were of BAME status. So, and that goes for the judiciary. Obviously, that goes for the police. The Mohammedan Pakistani rape gangs, great example of this in action, whereby the threat of being called racist was so much and was programmed into them so much that it was the worst thing that you could be called, that it led to these mass atrocities proliferating that took the innocence and ruined the lives and led to many girls losing their lives, such as Charlene Downs. Because they were scared to be called race. They were scared to go against the status quo. And anybody that did was branded as all of these things and made persona non grata and often actively criminalized. And this politicization, obviously now that people are more awake to it, it's seemingly a lot more at the forefront of everything, despite the fact this has been going on for decades. But yeah, racial profiling, ethnic profiling, being more lenient on some groups because of their ethnic background, or whether they're a man or woman, or whether they profess to be any other made up quote unquote gender, personality and stuff like that. All of these things from the leftist schools, basically, of critical race theory, intersectionality, transgenderism, and all part of this wider secular narrative. Very, very bad indeed, and it is programming, and you could make the argument that they've been programmed by all of the places that they get their funding from, and more often than not, those are radical left-wing Soros-backed NGOs and stuff like that. So it is very, very scary, very, very scary indeed, as are other things. So there's another video here which I covered when I was in Cornwall, and as I said, I forgot to set up, or I didn't set up my my settings correctly, so it didn't capture the audio. We're going to see if it will capture the audio now, and this is only a short clip. It's only 25 seconds long, and it is, I'm not sure where it is in the UK, but this is what happens in the UK because they're so scared of information getting out there that they don't have control over, i.e. the media, i.e. the establishment, i.e. the government, and all branches of government, then the enforcement arm of the police and all stuff like that. they're so scared of things getting out there that they don't have control over, that if they even see you recording at the side of the road and you don't give them your name and address and personal information or stuff like that. This is a great example. This video is a great example of why Americans take the Fourth Amendment and their rights to withhold ID and those kinds of things, their rights as private citizens, very, very seriously. Because this is a video where somebody's recording at the side of the road, as far as I know, not committing any offense or anything like that. But this police officer says that if you don't hand over your personal information, basically, I believe he asks for name and address, you're going to be charged with terrorism, or you're going to be charged under the Terrorism Act. And you can quite clearly see by his body language and the way that he the way that he offers his explanation, basically, that he's not confident in what he's saying at all. And I think that means, I think that indicates that he knows that he doesn't exactly have a strong legal foundation for what he's doing. And he knows, in my opinion, that what he's doing is wrong. So we're going to skip on over to that now. And hopefully, again, this audio will work also. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be over there right now.
So what we want currently from yourself is your name and date of birth, just to run some checks.
Okay.
To make sure everything's fine. And
All right.
other than that, if you don't give those details, I'm going to have to arrest you
Right.
under the Terrorism Act, because you're filming vehicles.
Yeah.
We have no understanding of why you're doing that. And by arresting, if you don't give details. So
there we go. That's the clip. So I'm going to flick back over a minute and we'll go over one little bit. So the reason, obviously, you can see why instantly there, I don't think this guy has a very strong foundation for what he is saying. But this is how they threaten people. Because if you get charged with terrorism in this country, if you get threatened being charged with terrorism, which is initially what happened to Tommy Robinson when he came back into the country, and is also what happened to other journalistic figures. I'm not sure what his surname is, but his name is Callum. He goes by a CAD secretary on X. He was out filming, I believe, in America. And when he came back into the country, they confiscated, they met him at the airport. They immediately confiscated all of his recording equipment, cameras, USB sticks, drives, hard drives, whatever he had his video and audio stuff on, every single bit of equipment and data he had, as well as his personal artifacts, so phone, all stuff like that, and said that if he did not open them and did not grant them access to all of these things, that he was going to be charged with terrorism. Now, if you get charged with terrorism in this country, it's a little bit different to when you're charged with any other things. You do not have the right to remain silent. You do not have the right to withhold phone passwords, phone passcodes, anything like this, okay? You do not, as I said, you have to answer all questions. I believe you can do all this and you don't have the right to legal representation or a lawyer at that time. Basically, you just get detained and you are forced to hand over everything and answer all questions for as long as they want. And these things can be confiscated, I believe, up for 2 weeks after. Once they decide to let the charge go, they can keep them on hold. They can keep them on remand, like your cameras and phone and stuff like that, on remand for up to 14 days, I believe it is. I'm not 100% sure on that, and I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice or rigorous legal information. This is just from my brief understanding from what I've heard from others who have talked about it, such as Ezra Levant, who talked about it recently on X regarding the recent Tommy Robinson rejection of a judicial hearing for his prison conditions. But they can do all of these things on a whim, and if obviously you don't go along with it, then you can get charged with terrorism. And obviously that's a big charge to get levied with. That is a big, massive charge to get levied with, just for, in Callum's case, going out to a different country and making, I believe it was a documentary of some kind, or recording content of some kind. But it just goes to show the totalitarian controls that we are under in the UK. You can be a random, unvetted, military-age male coming across the channel on a small boat, and probably a couple hours later, you'll end up in a taxpayer-funded hotel with a belly full of food and a nice warm hotel room whilst our pensioners freeze to death. But if you're a citizen of this country, you go away to record some content in a different country, or you're trying to pursue actual justice for the victims of grooming gangs, and as a result you don't want to give over your phone passwords to police, because these grooming gangs, having suffered political persecution at the hands of police, have very little reason to trust police, had no reasons to trust police whatsoever, and as a result probably wouldn't want their names and contact details being handed over to the police. Yeah, that's how you're treated. That's how you're treated as a citizen of this country. So it is truly an indictment on the state of affairs that we find ourselves in, the truly totalitarian state in the UK that we are in. And this just goes to show you, this is a great example of it, where he's recording at the side of the road. As far as I know, that's not committing any crime or any offence. As far as I know, he's not doing it for harassment purposes or anything like that. Obviously, this is a 20-second clip. I don't know what happened before this. I don't know what happened after this part of the interaction. I don't know whether he was charged with terrorism or anything like that. But just you can see now why Americans take their Fourth Amendment rights and their right to withhold ID and not give over their personal information to police who may decide to act in this way very seriously. You can see that now, because God knows what this guy is going to do with that information. How the hell can you trust people when they have no precedent to demand this kind of identification and information from you? And God knows what's going to happen. You might get a knock at the door at 4 a.m., as we've seen many of them doing because of posts that you make on social media. True Stasi-like tactics going on right now. Stasi and NKVD tactics going on the part of the police. And this is all part, as I said earlier in this episode when we were talking about the facial ID vans, of this leftist programming that's been going on. This is the fruits of it. This is how it manifests. Apologies, guys. I stopped the recording just then because my door opened. I was wondering if somebody was coming in, but no, it turns out it was my lovely black Labrador Bailey just paying me a little visit. But this is the state of affairs we find ourselves in. And why do I think that this officer, for example, does not have, any legal precedent or at least any good foundation to do what he's doing? Is because you can see it in his body language. You can see it in the way that he's stuttering over his words as he's trying to get out whatever, party line or whatever a dogmatized line that he needs to get out. And you can see it in this last part of the clip here. So bear with me 2 seconds, and I'll show you now. So it's around about here. In the last sort of 5 seconds.
Balls.
Yeah.
We have no understanding of why you're doing that. And
he's out there filming, no understanding of why they're doing it. And as far as I know, in a public place, you don't need a reason, or you don't need to clear it with police in order to go filming in a public place, provided you're not doing it for harassment, or you're doing it to give away anybody's personal information or anything like that. You can record in a public place. Might be different if he's near a protected building or military infrastructure or something like that, absolutely. But as far as I know, this is just a residential area, and he's perfectly within his rights and privileges to film, and he doesn't need to get any express permission or anything like that. As far as I know, admittedly, I understand the laws are quite stringent around it in this country. America is obviously a lot different. But as far as I know, he hasn't broken any laws, and he does not need to clear this with police.
You're filming vehicles.
Yeah.
We have no understanding of why you're doing that. And by arresting, if you don't give details.
There we go. This little gesture here, this little, effeminate little gesture here is what we're talking about. So let's bring it back.
Don't give details.
As if it's apparent, as if it should just be apparent as to what's going on. So, this is the state of policing in this country. They'll let rapists, pedophiles, violent criminals go free, won't even bother prosecuting them, won't even bother chasing them down because they might be seen as racist or whatever. The rioters from Hare Hills, nothing done. I think the guy was released later on that day or the following day, one of the main rioters that set like a bus on fire. But if you record the aftermath of one of the riots, or if you hold a sign next to a hotel saying the government and the police are corrupt, then you need to be fast-tracked through the courts and sent to prison, where you'll die in prison. So yeah, very unfortunate that we find ourselves in communist UK. There was another clip which I just skipped past a bit quick, but I believe this is another one. So this is from Radio Genoa's page on Twitter. Or on X, rather. I should not be dead naming it. Come on, George. You should not be dead naming X. And the caption for it is, British police want to arrest an Englishman for terrorism because he took photos. It seems like a joke, but it is not. So this is related to the clip that we just saw. I wasn't planning to go over this one, but we'll go over it as well, because I realized I hadn't watched this clip yet. I bookmarked it, but I hadn't actually watched it yet. So we might as well watch it together and see what's going on. But yeah, let's go on over and we'll find out what's going on with this one.
No, taking pictures.
Yeah.
Why are you taking pictures for?
I'm sorry?
Why are you taking pictures for?
Who are you?
I'm a police officer. Why are you taking pictures? Okay, you've got phone in your hands, right?
The mask as well.
And you start recording. Why are you recording?
Registration.
Yeah,
Why do you record it?
Note to everybody who may be listening or watching this, asking why you're recording. You should always be recording these interactions. You should always be recording these interactions. They're recording it. They've got body camera. You can see it right there on the left-hand side. They're recording it. You should always be recording these interactions in case anything should happen. It's just a great general rule of thumb. It's the reason why you see so many people when they're recording these, they end up actually getting the compensation that they deserve later on, whatever it may be, when they end up taking this down the legal route and all stuff like that. If there obviously has been malpractice or an injustice on the part of this, but especially with the politicized policing and politicized judiciary that we have, the footage from his body camera, that can always go missing. That can always be corrupted, okay, and go missing. So make sure that you're always, if you have any interactions like this, you've got some form of recording device, ideally video and audio, obviously. So when the question of why are you recording, why wouldn't you be recording, first off?
I usually record the matters of public interest.
Okay, what's your name, sir? Because we are quite concerned with what we're doing in terms of recording the police station being part of that.
Can you not surround me, please?
Oh,
Sorry?
hold on.
Don't surround me like this.
I'm asking.
Smart thing to do. Ask not to be surrounded. I want to go back at the moment. I want to look at what that text in the building said. So this appears to be right. Let's. I'm just gonna flick out of this a moment. I'm gonna try and zoom in and work out what this actually says. Right. So, my phone's going. Right. As I said, apologies about that, ladies and gentlemen. I just had a phone call that I had to take. But I flick back over. I believe that it actually says Metropolitan Police. So this, I believe, is a police station for, I can't work out what place it is. I know it says something borough. This is like Wingdon Borough or something like that. Okay, but there's a place to be a police station. So maybe they're taking umbrage with that because maybe he was taking photos of the police station. I'll have to have a look up in a bit. Maybe taking photo or video of a police station does actually violate some kind of a statute or something like that. But we'll have a look at that in a bit. But let's see what they have to say. Still, let's see what they have to say.
Not surround.
Sorry?
Don't surround me like this.
I'm asking you what you're doing.
What is the purpose behind it?
Okay, we need to drop it down a level.
Okay.
Okay, we need to calm down.
We are talking to you.
You approach me, hi sir,
Okay.
and you ask me a question nicely.
Okay.
Am I respond and am I not? Are we clear?
Okay.
So let's start again.
Let's just start again, all right?
Okay, go on.
You cannot record a police station.
Say that again.
You cannot record a police
Says who?
Okay.
Says who? Says who?
What do you mean says who?
Says who? You?
Okay, so already not a great start. So the interaction itself is not exactly going great here, obviously. The guy made a good point of saying that it's a good idea to de-escalate the situation. Yes, absolutely. If anything could be done to de-escalate the situation, that's obviously going to be a good thing. No matter who it is, you're likely going to have a much more constructive dialogue, provided emotions are kept in check and, the situation is de-escalated, okay? Already, yes, when they're coming out, it's obviously 2v1, and it's smart for the police because you don't know necessarily who you're dealing with as police. We don't know if this gentleman is armed. Obviously, in a lot of areas in the UK, it's very, very unsafe, so people might decide to arm themselves. You never know. So I understand from the police perspective, it can be very dangerous going into these situations. This is a complete stranger. You don't know who it is. You don't know why they're recording. Okay, fair enough. Fully get that. So it's a good idea to be respectful going into the interaction. But it's starting to break down here. He asks, or he says, the police officer makes the remark saying, you can't record the police station. And he says who? Not necessarily a great thing to ask. You should say it's illegal. You should clarify the question. You say it's illegal to record the police station, is it? And if they say yes, then you can ask them, okay, what's that? What law says that? Or where can I find out that this is actually true? Because I wasn't aware that it was actually illegal to record police stations and those kinds of things. Okay, you can go down that route. Okay. In fact, what we'll do is we'll go see if it is. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this is interesting. I think this is important context to have a look at before we go into the next part of the video. So obviously he says you're not allowed to record the police station. Well, I literally just typed into Google, for example. I might just do another one in a moment. And it's I just literally typed it, is it illegal to video a police station in the UK? I'm going to show you Google's response. So Google, hang on, I'll see if I can reposition it for you guys. Give me 2 seconds. Right, okay, apologies about that, guys. I've just tried to reposition it. So, here we go. This is what Google said. So, I'll read it out for you now. And it says, in the UK, it's generally not illegal to film a police station or the police, but there are some conditions and considerations to be aware of, such as not obstructing officers or filming for criminal or terrorist purposes. Perfectly reasonable, okay? I wonder what the grounds for suspicion are in that instance. As we've seen, you could literally just be a journalist that doesn't toe the party line, and that would lead you to being charged with terrorism. But anyway, there's a more detailed explanation here. So filming in public. When it comes to filming in public, so this helps out with the other clip that we watched as well. You have the right to film in public places, including near police stations, unless you are doing so for criminal or terrorist purposes. And the conditions, which Google have listed here, are no obstruction. You cannot obstruct police officers or the public by filming. In both instances that we've looked at so far, it doesn't appear that they were obstructing police officers in any way. No filming inside, so you should not film inside the front office or other areas where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. Yeah, sure, that's fair enough. If we go back to the video clip, which we can right here, so you can't really see inside the windows. There's a heavy reflection here, which you can see. So I don't think it would violate the privacy. So he does pan over here, but this is because the officer walks over this way. And obviously this is where he says that please don't surround me. So obviously he's worried for or concerned for his safety, but there's a lot of reflection, and obviously the windows are tinted in this police station. I'm not obviously a legal expert. I don't believe that this would violate privacy in any way. No filming of police officers. You should not film police officers unless they are in a public space and you are not doing so for nefarious purposes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I said before that in this instance, I believe he's filming it for his own safety and for his own record, which you absolutely should be able to do. Corruption is a thing in the police, more so than I think any time I've ever seen at the moment in the UK. So absolutely, I would advise people to film these interactions, even if they're just filming themselves initially with like a camera just focused on themselves. So not actually necessarily filming the officer if they are worried about this. But yeah, it's in a public place. You got to be careful. And if you're having these interactions, you have to have your own record, because obviously the police body cam footage can always go missing or be corrupted or whatever. No filming of, I believe that's Metropolitan Police Service trademarks or logos. So you cannot film Metropolitan Police Service trademarks or logos. I believe that's what MPS stands for. And police can stop filming. The police can stop filming if it is necessary for an operational need. So the tips are obviously here, because this is obviously the AI output of Google. And yeah, exactly. Keep a safe distance and avoid pushing the phone in their faces. Yeah, absolutely. Don't, this is not to harass people or harass police officers or anything like that. It's just for your own safety. It's always good to communicate and inform the officer that you're filming. Absolutely. And holding all of these things are really quite nebulous. And yeah, don't get in their way. But obviously these police officers have approached him. So obviously the situation is a little bit different. But if we come here, for example, and this is from the Met Police website, this search result, it is not an offence to film a police station. If spotted, police officers can approach and ask questions as to what the individual is doing and why. And if the officer suspects possible terrorism offences, then the power to search seize could come into effect. So that is what, admittedly, my very limited knowledge of the law and a Google search tells me. But yeah, it's just because it's in a public place. There's, questions as to why it would be deemed illegal, and obviously provided that it's not being used for nefarious criminal or terrorist purposes, then it's recording in a public place. At the end of the day, it's a protected activity. So let's go back to where we were now. I'll just go from this point.
The purpose behind it.
Okay, we need to drop it down a level. Okay, we need to calm down.
We are talking to you.
You approach me, hi sir,
Okay.
and you ask me a question nicely.
Okay.
Am I respond and am I not? Are we clear?
Okay.
So let's start again.
Let's just start again, all right?
Yeah, go on.
Not record the police station.
Say that again.
You cannot record the police
Says who?
Okay.
Says who?
So this is the point of the interaction we were at before. See, it's not. We just discussed. It's not an offence. So there needs to be some extra clarification on the officer's part here.
What do you mean says you?
Says who? You?
You're
Why
not
are
getting
you
the point.
recording the police station?
Says who?
Why are you recording?
Okay, you just said
Yes.
I cannot record the
You
police
cannot
station.
record.
Says
Yeah.
who?
Okay, at this moment in time,
I'm talking. I cannot talk to two people. This
okay,
is
so I'm gonna
ridiculous.
explain to you.
Well, should I talk to you or should I talk to you?
At this
I
moment
talk to
in
you.
time,
Yeah.
the security level on police stations is high.
Why?
For us,
I'm not sure whether this would count. Obviously, technically, he's recording a police symbol because obviously her badge and police officer, patch is on display here. I'm not sure whether this would come in and say that you no filming of Metropolitan Police Service trademarks or logos. I'm not sure whether that would count, but obviously because it's on her person, it would be impossible not to record it. So I'm not sure what would happen here.
hostile reconnaissance.
What?
Hostile
Did you just make this up?
terrorism?
Terrorism?
Yeah.
What
And I'm
terrorism?
saying, at the moment,
Okay.
okay, we're going to detain you
Why?
for the purpose of the search.
Why?
Okay, because we're not comfortable with the fact that you're recording the police station and as police officers are
Okay, before
leaving.
you go ahead and detain me,
Yeah.
which
No,
I
I'm
think
telling you
you
now.
already did, yeah?
Yeah. Sorry.
Am I being detained right
You're
now?
detained now for the purpose
Which
of the
section are you
search.
detaining me under?
Section 43, the Terrorism Act. Okay.
Are you suspecting me to be a terrorist?
At this moment in time, because you're not explaining your behaviour.
Okay, could you give me the grounds of thinking I'm a terrorist?
Right. At this moment in time, officers are leaving.
Yeah.
The security level is high
What's the grounds? The grounds.
because you are recording the police.
But you need to
station.
suspect me that I am a terrorist, right?
For that reason, okay.
Another officer has shown up.
So for that reason, we're gonna
Go on.
So at best, I think this is, gross incompetence. Gross incompetence, in my opinion. And potentially even a little bit of malicious conduct at worst, All right, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I had a matter to go attend to, a family matter I had to go attend to, and so I've just come back now. I kind of lost track of where I was. Not gonna lie, I know exactly the issue that we were talking about, but there is one thing that I wanted to have a look at. Right, one thing I did just want to go over, and again, one thing I want to stress is that I am not obviously a legal professional, but there's one thing that I also wanted to touch on. So earlier on in this episode, we obviously touched on, is it illegal to record a police station in the UK? And obviously the result came back outside of certain circumstances involving criminality or terrorism or for potentially the purposes of harassment or to try and invade privacy and stuff like that. It appears it is not illegal. There's another thing which I just wanted to touch on, which was what are the grounds for detaining somebody under the Terrorism Act, and obviously how does it change for people that how long can they be detained for and stuff like that. So I just want to go back to the video 2 seconds just so I can find something else, but let's watch it one more time together, shall we?
I talk to you.
high.
Yeah.
The security level on police stations is high
Why?
for hostile reconnaissance.
What?
Hostile
Did you just make this up?
terrorism.
Terrorism?
Yeah.
What
And I'm
terrorism?
saying, at the moment,
Okay.
okay, we're going to detain you
Why?
for the purpose of the search.
Why?
Okay, because we're not comfortable with the fact that you're recording the police station and as police officers are
Okay,
leaving.
before you go ahead and detain me,
Yeah. No,
I
I'm
think
telling you
you
now.
already did, yeah?
Sorry?
Am I being detained right now?
You're detained now for the purpose
Which
of the
section are you
search.
detaining me under?
Section 43, the Terrorism Act. Okay?
Are you suspecting me to be a terrorist?
Okay, that's what I wanted to look under. So, sorry, guys, my door is acting weird. That's what I wanted to look at. So she said Section 43 of the Terrorism Act, and this is why I think there's a lot of questionable things here with regards to these officers and their knowledge of the law. And obviously these are people that we entrust to uphold the law, but if they don't even know the law, then especially when it's been politicized the way that we've seen that it's been politicized, then this is very, very worrying indeed, because it's not just, malice, it's potentially, genuine, ignorance or incompetence that's at play also. So you heard her say there, in her own words, so I'm just trying to adjust the position of my microphone just a little bit. Section 43 of the Terrorism Act. Now, if you go over here, for example, looking at this, so all I typed in, which you can see at the top there, was what are the legal grounds for detainment under the Terrorism Act in the UK? And it says here, under the Terrorism Act of 2000, police can detain individuals suspected of terrorism-related offences for up to 14 days without charge, relying on reasonable suspicion, that's the key point here, with potential extensions to 28 days requiring judicial warrants. Now, the thing that really sticks out to me here, as you can see here for a more detailed explanation, is that it says here, Section 41. Now, obviously, this could be wrong, but there's a disparity here between what, if a person wanted to research this, is going to be greeted by, if they wanted to research this for themselves. And obviously, you'd have to go into looking at the actual documents themselves, which we're not going to go into just in today's episode. It would take way too long. But it says here Section 41, and she is saying Section 43. Now, it may seem like, nothing major. It may seem like such a small thing, but when you're dealing with offences as serious as terrorism, you're potentially going to charge somebody with terrorism that for doing something seemingly so small that could affect them in terms of employment opportunities, social stigma, all of these things for the rest of their lives. You better know what section of the law you're talking about. To get something like that wrong really speaks to a wider problem, in my opinion, of incompetence, should it be that she is wrong and this is correct. Obviously, please do take into account this is not, rigorous research. This is just trying to do a basic search on what the powers of the police in this instance are. So Section 41, according to this, of the Terrorism Act, and actually if I click this, let's see what it comes up with. So yeah, and it says here, according to this gov.uk document, which you can see here under Section 41 of TACT 2000, it says here on the right-hand side, which you can see here. So it does appear that she got this wrong. It does appear that she got this seriously wrong, which is very worrying because it allows police officers to arrest a person they reasonably suspect is a terrorist without a warrant. Okay, so they don't need a warrant for it, like I said, and they can have access to all of your phone passwords. You don't have a right to remain silent. They can ask you whatever questions they want, regardless of how small or motivation and those kinds of things. They can obviously apply for extended duration, and it's naturally extended beyond the standard 24 hours up to a maximum of 14 days. Reasonable suspicion. The police must have a reasonable suspicion that the individual is or has been concerned in the commission, preparation, or instigation of acts of terrorism to justify detention. So there's questions here as to whether this individual, just from video recording, is actually has been concerned in the commission, preparation, or instigation of acts of terrorism. Consider recording in a public place is perfectly legal, and also recording police stations is perfectly legal. Yes, it's concerning, but in my opinion, this is just the officers handling this in a really terrible way. And then you have this Schedule 7. So Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act 2000 allows police, immigration, and customs officers to stop, question, search, and detain individuals at the UK border. Okay, so this is the one that Callum, CAT Secretary, I believe, would have been detained under for up to 6 hours if they determine if they are a terrorist. So, the definition of terrorism. This is always good to look at. The Terrorism Act defines terrorism as the use or threat of actions designed to influence the government, an international governmental organization, or to intimidate the public for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. Serious questions as to what is going on here, and serious questions as to the competency of our police. Okay, there's no two ways about that. This is really scary. This is really scary for everybody, for every citizen of this country. This is extremely scary. So very concerning stuff, and the government seems all too trigger happy at the moment to charge people, to threaten people with terrorism just to get things out of them that are politically advantageous. Speaking politically advantageous, so there's one more thing which I wanted to go over that's not related to this, but it's another video clip which is very satisfying, in my opinion. So satisfying, because it's a gentleman who was on LBC giving the smackdown to in my opinion, ignorant and often arrogant leftist, I believe by the name of Marina Purkiss, regarding the inheritance tax that had been levied on farmers. So the inheritance tax that have recently been levied on farmers is a truly disgusting thing, in my opinion, that is simply designed to drive British farmers off of their land so that the land can be used and purchased by collectivist organizations and non-governmental organizations, big business people, quote unquote, like Larry Fink from BlackRock, who I want to tarmac it over and put a bunch of solar panels on there and turn the UK even more of an energy deprived state, while China fracks and burns coal like there's no tomorrow. Or so that they can create a food scarcity, so that we'll be forced to eat the genetically modified Frankenbeef and eat the bugs, as Klaus Schwab would say. And this was a very, very satisfying exchange on LBC, because it's always the classic socialist mindset: tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich, eat the rich, those kinds of things going on, right? So let's listen and consume this glorious takedown of this ignorant leftist as they are schooled on the facts and figures. And we've got a couple more to go over as well. He explains, obviously, they go into how the inheritance tax scam actually works, and ultimately why this gentleman is going to highlight that it is so destructive and so evil. So let's take a look at this.
The Jeremy Clarkson example, so many of these farms are bought to avoid paying inheritance tax. Those people need to be
Very few farms are bought for that purpose. But imagine you have a farm worth £5 million. You have an allowance of £3 million. So you're going to pay 20% tax on £2 million. That's £400,000.
You can pay back over 10 years.
Now let's imagine that farm, 5 million capital value, is producing a return of about 1%. That's 50,000 a year, on which you'll pay income tax. You have to pay that tax bill of £400,000 out of an income of 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
That is all your income for the next 8 years, and you have to live. And I'm afraid what you demonstrate is the lack of understanding that the Treasury shows as to how farming is financed.
Yeah.
And it's people that don't understand that are making these decisions. And this is why the farmers in my constituency are so livid with the Treasury.
Yeah.
They simply don't understand what's going on.
Now, the only thing I would disagree with is that the Treasury or whoever it is making these decisions doesn't understand what's going on. They know exactly what they're doing, at least in my opinion. As I said, they know exactly what they're doing. They're perfectly happy to tax the farmers off the land so that they can fund farmers in foreign countries for some reason down in the south of America. So they know exactly what they're doing in this scenario. That's the only thing that I would disagree with, is that this is not by accident. This is not by people that are ignorant. This is not by people that don't understand what they're doing. They understand perfectly what they're doing. That's the difference. But he says it perfectly. And it highlights the difference, for example, between farmers being rich in terms of their estate and asset rich. So, their combine harvesters, their equipment, their storage units, whatever it may be asset rich, but in terms of their income, that is not reflected in any way in the cost or the value of their assets, which is ultimately what is being taxed in this scenario. It's not like an extra 20% tax on the income or anything like that, which would already be, just a silly amount of daylight robbery, but it's on their assets, which they have to pay back a certain amount in cash, obviously, or in money, which they simply do not have. Okay, just because a tractor or, as I said, a harvester or some kind of crop sprayer, whatever it may be, is worth a certain amount, does not mean that that's what the farmers are getting and they're sitting on. Does not mean that they're sitting on £5 million of, fiscal money or whatever it is, literal money that they can just give to the treasury, which they shouldn't give to anyway, in my opinion, because it's simply designed as a scam to ruin the British family farms. But they're having to pay this back. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. It's completely unaffordable. And he said that he gave the example of about 50,000. Say you're making about 50,000 a year, and yes, you have to pay tax on that. You just have to pay income tax first off, and then you have to pay any other tax that you might have to pay, insurances maybe for whatever equipment that you use. People are forgetting this. There's so many costs involved. You got to live off it. You've got to pay your energy bills. You've got to pay for if anything breaks down, fuel for your tractors. Never mind the fact that they're trying to bring in all these net zero electric tractors and all of these things at vastly exorbitant prices because of net zero and the climate change sun monster that's going to come and eat us all. But it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense unless you're looking at it from that communist trying to drive them off the land, trying to force them into a point where they have to sell off land to meet this ridiculous requirement so that they can give it over to BlackRock to put solar panels or to tarmac it over whatever the hell it's going to be, right? And, create all these other things that are going to give them more power because it makes us poorer. But anyway, lays it out perfectly. And I actually went and got some stats as well to have a look at this. So he gave the example of if it was 50,000 and then you're going to get taxed on that, right? So let's have a look at this. So average income of British farmers, what I typed into Google, and apparently the average farm business for 2021 to 2022, which is the most up-to-date search result they got, was about 72,000. So that's a little bit higher, right? But obviously not all farms are the same, and it varies significantly based on the type of farm. So the business trends, so here you go. So this one was 21% lower. Average net payment received across all farm types was approximately £18,300, 21% lower than 22 to 2023. Cereal farms tend to do a little bit better, it seems. But when we have a look at this section down here, farm type income variation. So general cropping farms in 2021 to 2022 had the highest average income at about £41,000, actually slightly less than the example which he gave, I think, because he's quite up to date with his constituents and the farmers within his constituency. He used that as an average figure, right? Dairy farms, slightly less, 39,900 in that year. Look at this, lowland grazing livestock. Very low average income at less than 10,000 for that year. Horticulture, just over 10,000, 12,000 for that year. Okay, so they're not massively, millionaires just rolling in money as people seem to think that they are. I just realized I forgot to go over. I forgot to turn the page to show the slide. So I'll do that now for you guys. So apologies if you were watching this. This is what I'm referring to. So average farm business income in the UK for 21 to 2022, about 72,000. And then down here, for example, in the farm type income variations, 41,000 for general cropping. 39,900 for dairy farms in the year 2021 to 2022. Lowland grazing livestock, 9,800, the lowest average income for that year. Horticulture, 12,000. So these are the figures that I'm referring to when I'm talking about these things right now. So when you hear this, again, and Marina tries to go over the point of, oh yeah, but it's got to be paid back over 10 years, and that may seem like it's such a good thing. Well, the guy points out that is just in the inheritance tax, a full 8 years of income, which going to be paid back, as I said, over that 10 years. But it's just blatant daylight robbery. It's just blatant daylight robbery from the people that give us our food. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let's just watch the video one more time so we can really understand this.
The Jeremy Clarkson example, so many of these farms are
and this just speak because it's just the arrogance of the liberal intelligentsia, isn't it? It's just the arrogance of the liberal intelligentsia. They think they know everything. They think that we all live in this kumbaya world where, fruit grows on store shelves and everything like this. And net zero is really the the most pressing issue of the day, in their privileged ivory towers where they don't necessarily have any of the problems with the common folk that we have, right? And they actually despise us. They want to masquerade as social justice warriors and being for the little guy. They actually despise us. They wouldn't want to be anywhere near us. Let's face it, they wouldn't want to be anywhere near us in reality. Okay, they wouldn't want to live in our communities. They just want to appear virtuous and make themselves feel better so they can sleep at night and have the feeling of being virtuous and being right. And being moral.
Paying inheritance tax. Those people need to be
Very few farms are bought for that purpose. But imagine you have a farm worth £5 million. You have an allowance of £3 million. So you're going to pay 20% tax on £2 million. That's £400,000.
You can pay back over 10 years.
Now let's imagine that farm, 5 million capital value, is producing a return of about 1%. That's 50,000 a year, on which you'll pay income tax. You have to pay.
And remember, out of that, not only do you have to pay this new inheritance tax and the income tax, you also, again, have to live and pay your bills and make sure that your family's taken care of and all these things, right? And you have to be able to replenish stock and all of these things, okay? There's always, income coming in, but there's always a lot of expenses. It's not easy. It's not easy.
That tax bill of £400,000 out of an income of 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
That is all your income for the next 8 years, and you have to live. And I'm afraid what you demonstrate is the lack of understanding that the Treasury shows as to how farming is financed.
Yeah. Again, I genuinely think that like Marina and these, media, I call them placeholders, right? These people that are the faces of these organizations, they genuinely, I believe, are quite ignorant of this. When I'm saying that the people who know exactly what they're doing are doing this deliberately for a part of a sinister agenda. I'm talking about the people working behind the scenes, the Treasury, Rachel Reeves, those kinds of people that are doing this for a specific purpose and with a specific outcome in mind. Those are the people who know exactly what they're doing. Marina, you wouldn't expect her to know the ins and outs of this kind of thing, and she's just doing what she's told, okay? You feel sorry for her to a certain extent.
And it's people that don't understand that are making these decisions. And this is why the farmers in my constituency are so livid with the Treasury.
Yeah.
They simply don't understand what's going on.
There we go. So I believe firmly that the Treasury and those other people know exactly what's going on, and they're doing this with the express purpose of running the farmers off the land and, crippling British industry already more than it already is. But yeah, so that was an amazing masterclass in 1 minute, less than a minute, because obviously Marina was talking at the start, less than a minute to completely dispel any notions that this tax is being done for the benefit of the nation or anything like that. Completely dispelled it, completely, didn't explain, but highlighted the difference between being asset rich and being cash rich or money rich, which farmers are not really that money rich for the most part. They asset rich and obviously rich in terms of their estate, but that's not the same as being wealth rich and those kinds of things. Okay, you also see them, with expensive equipment and doing a lot of work on their farm and having a nice estate and those kinds of things, which they can pass down to their family, which in my opinion they should be able to do. But you don't really see them driving around in sports cars, like Lamborghinis and those kinds of things. But you'll see plenty of those in London and in other cities where these liberal types are. But anyway, that'll do for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you find it useful. And yeah, so I think that'll do. We'll see if I get any knocks at the door in the near future. I haven't yet, luckily, but we'll see. Thank you very much. As always, guys, good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are, and I will catch up with you very, very soon. Godspeed.